Hello and welcome to the Slapshot Syndicate podcast. Be sure to subscribe for more content, and whilst you're at it, go and follow our social media pages. They're on screen now. Now, on to the episode. Hello, welcome back to the Slapshot Syndicate. We just, before we start, we wanted to say a big thank you to all of the players and fans that got involved with our big talking point last week, which was playoff predictions. The response has been phenomenal, so just wanted to say a big thank you and shout out some of the people that sent in their predictions, starting with Kel Beatty, and we had Stuart Mogg, Liam Stenton, Callum Boyd, Cam Hamill, Liam Danskin, Dominic Gabage.
We also had Will Stead, Vlad Luca, Liam Morris, Sean Morris, Josh Kelly, Jay King, Zach Yokoyama and Ewan Hill. We really appreciate everyone getting involved. Like we say, the reception to the podcast itself was brilliant last week, and it was great to see all the very different, predictions. It weren't just vision, was it?
No, definitely. Yeah, I mean, you could have probably bet your bottom dollar that most people was going to come out and say Leeds Knights, but they didn't. People had some very good opposing views and reasons why they believe that was the case. So opens it up, just shows that outside of this room there are a lot of other opinions as well.
100%. So, and to be fair, it was really interesting hearing what these guys had to say based purely off the fact that they've actually played every team multiple times this year, and you know yourself, if you've played sport before and you've got a team coming up and you're like, don't fancy playing them, but again, it was real cool to hear what they had to say. So big thanks to everybody, and obviously those of you who watch the podcast as well with non-ice hockey players, we really appreciate you as well getting involved just as much. Obviously these topics that we've been having over the last couple of weeks have been real good for the interaction, haven't they?
Yeah.
And we want that to continue.
And with that said, we'll go into Seahawks reaction. Welcome back. So we're going to go into our Seahawks reaction now. First and foremost, probably a bit of an anticlimactic weekend, I think, for us.
Yeah.
We obviously went into Saturday's game and the intensity was there. The passion was there. It was end-to-end stuff. I feel like either of these teams could have come away with the points, and we just seemed to want it more on Saturday and managed to come away with the points. What's your take on it?
I thought that this was the definition of playoff hockey, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously Peterborough coming, we knew it wasn't going to be a pushover, but it was exactly that. Hull, and I thought we did play really well at home, and I think me, you, and Azza last week discussed that we need to win all of our home games and hopefully pick something up away. We obviously did that this weekend. We got our home victory, which was brilliant. And to be honest with you, without being disrespectful to Peterborough, I thought that we were good value for our win. Their first goal was a little bit controversial. Obviously, we was 1-0 up at the time. There was a potential call for a stick lift that got missed on the ice, and they went up the other end. And to be fair to them, it was a great pass by Salem for Norton to knock that in. But there was a lot of controversy, and I think after that the tempers started to flare a little bit, didn't they? They
did, yeah. I mean, like we mentioned, these games are intense, and you could see that from the off. But one thing I wanted to note is how good both netties was on
100%.
Saturday.
Yeah,
I think both netties kept each team in the game throughout. So just shout out to Hayden Levine and Dimitri Zamodstra. It was just phenomenal goaltending, to be honest with you. And so some other big players, Lee Bonner.
Yeah, Bones was huge again, wasn't he? I think that whole line for that past couple of weekends has not been carrying, but they've been contributing massively, haven't they? Bones, Cornel and Hewitt, fantastic. I want to go back to your keeper's point as well and actually say that both players got man of the match on the night, didn't they? There was some saves where, and again it sort of ties into your point where, like Bones and Cornel and people were getting shots off, and there was just both of them were making saves where they just had no right, did they? Which was fantastic. But you are 100% right, Lee. Johnny and Huey all ran the socks off, didn't they? And it was great to see. Yeah,
I mean, just looking at some of the stats, Seahawks had 35 shots on goal, and Peterborough had 46 shots on goal. Yeah. So it really was just end-to-end stuff, and it was down to the netties to keep both teams in the game. Yeah. Really, it very easily could have swung one way of Hull or Peterborough, and that would have been the game dead and buried, really. So it was a phenomenal performance. to be honest with you, set us up nicely going into the Sunday. I think as Seahawks fans we was relatively hopeful, knowing that, you know, Peterborough are not an easy team to verse, but if we'd have got all points against Peterborough, it'd have set us up very, very nicely coming into the Leeds game, and obviously we've got Telford as the last set of games, so as a Seahawks fan it'd have been phenomenal just to have them points behind us going into that, but fortunately, it wasn't to be.
No, I think in the car home we were very optimistic, weren't we, after that performance?
Yeah.
And again, that's no disrespect to Peterborough. I think, to be fair, looking at the shots and reflecting on the game, that in that first period, Demo was really busy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You know, he was making some saves again that he had no right to, but I think once we got that third goal, it was sort of a bit of elation. It was quite late on, wasn't it? And then they obviously nicked one right towards the end. But yeah, on the way home after that performance, we were seeing if we can go tomorrow like that and play. You know, then it'll be great. But you actually watched the game on the Sunday. I was unable to watch this, unfortunately. And it was a tale of two games, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Oh God, it was very stressful to watch, certainly as a Seahawks fan. It started off, obviously Peterborough got their first goal within the first minute, so you think, okay, switch it on, maybe it's just a wake-up call that they needed, and go, okay, we need to come and perform tonight now, otherwise they're going to walk over us. Seahawks managed to, pull one back, but straight away Peterborough got one back.
Yeah. How many seconds was it?
Was it like 24 seconds?
24 seconds later.
24 seconds later, Peterborough scored. But then, as luck would have it, Peterborough went and scored again.
Yeah. 3-1 was it?
Yeah, only for Seahawks to go and score straight away after that as well. Another, what was that, like 15 seconds or something afterwards. So it really was just end-to-end stuff up until that point. But Peterborough, they had a good fan base on Sunday. And
did it look like there was a big atmosphere there for the first home game? It
did, yeah, definitely. I think they've got something good going there, and obviously, the setup Slava's got in his team seemed to work really well. So you could see that the team was just gelling, something was clicking on that night, and they made it really, really difficult for us. We had our moments. We had some good chances, probably some shots that should have gone in, and then I think a bit of frustration started creeping in, because you have so many shots on goal and not one of them seems to be in the back of the net, which again is just a shout out to Hayden Levine. But in the end, I think Seahawks had fired on all cylinders trying to get some goals back, and it just wasn't meant to be. No. Peterborough just outperformed us in that aspect. Was
it in the second or the third period that you say that they pulled away from us? Because it's obviously on the stats it says that they scored 2 goals in the second period. At what point did you think it might be a bit tough for us to come back?
Well, in my opinion, it was sort of halfway through the second period.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was legs started getting a bit more tired, or it was just as time was shortening, players was getting a little bit more demoralised and
damage limitation, sort of preserving what they had.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had a goal chalked off as well, didn't we? Or was that Peterborough? Sorry,
Peterborough had a goal chalked off, and that would have been for Salem's hat trick.
Wow. Okay.
So, but yeah, no. All in all, it was a good game to watch. But I think Peterborough coming away with the points, they sort of deserved it.
Yeah.
We've talked about our away form, and in my opinion, some of that really needs to improve, because these games are, they mean so much to fans and the club. You need to be able to get points away, and with the fixtures we've got coming up, you can't just bank on you winning your home ice. So
we said, didn't we? We said last week that 6 points probably isn't enough in the playoffs, and with the current situation that we're in, we're going to Leeds this weekend, and Peterborough have got Telford. Now, obviously, we'll move on to the results and stuff like that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that the table is, if we have a tough weekend and Peterborough have a favourable weekend, then
it's going to be a bit
could
of
be
a
an early.
Yeah,
I don't want to say it, but it could be. We could be walking towards an early shower, so to speak, and after all the hard work and the graft and the ups and downs of this season, it'd be a massive shame for Seahawks. But on the flip side, Peterborough, again, like with the scoreline, and like you've just said, they're deserving of it, so you can't take anything away from them, can you?
Yeah, no, definitely. I love to see these two teams matched up, to be honest, because I feel like they're very similar in some aspects, so it always makes for great watching.
Yeah.
Just talking about ups and downs, you know, it's worth mentioning that we initially thought we was going to have Bobby Chamberlain back for both the Telford games, so he was at least going to get another game on home ice.
Yeah. His initial ban was 7 games, wasn't it? And he served a game against Leeds, the last regular game of the season, and then he was due to get 6 more games, wasn't he?
Which means he'd have been back.
Yeah.
But
I think that's how it worked out, didn't it?
Sorry,
the weekend before the last. Sorry, but wasn't to be, was it? Unfortunately.
No. So the Department of Player Safety has re-reviewed it, and Bobby Chamberlain's got an extra game ban, which means he'll miss the home game against Telford.
Yeah.
Which again is just a bit of a hit for us. You know, I think we've always, as fans, we've been sort of excited by the premise that we will see him back on the ice there, and you know, having 2 games to go and deliver a result might just be the thing that we needed at that point, but not meant to be. Unfortunately, the only hope now is, you know, he comes away, we get the job done, and he gets to go to the Coventry playoff weekend.
I think it'd be deserved for Bob. First full season as captain of the Seahawks. What's your take on it? Do you think? Obviously, we're massively biased because we're Hull Seahawks fans, but based off him as an individual, you know, everyone talks a lot about Emmy and Sobchak on their line, but how much of the hard work does he do for them, and you know, how much does he deserve to be? And I know on the flip side, we'll probably have fans in the comments saying, well, he also deserves his ban because of the actions that he did, and we're not you know, blind to that. You know, I think Bobby's gutted about it as much as the Seahawks fans are, and in retrospect, it probably wasn't the best thing to do in the situation. We've actually spoke to a couple of, you know, like other podcasts and people around, and they've said that based on their opinions, and some of these guys have been watching for ages, you know, they said Bobby was very lucky to even be having the possibility to go to Coventry and stuff like that. But you know, what do you think? Like,
well, for me, you know, you've got to look at the instigation of where the ban came from, and I feel like probably a bit of an injustice there. But in the terms of how Bobby retaliated to it, almost sort of deserved. We said a couple of weeks ago that we'd be surprised if we saw him back for the rest of this season. I just think, as a player and a captain, you know, this is going to hurt him deeply. You don't want to be sat in the stands watching this stuff when you've worked so hard to
especially get at this point in the year. Like they play all year for playoff hockey, don't they? And again, as a captain, you've gone out and looked after one of his players, which you can totally appreciate.
Like the first sort of hit in that Bristol game after, you know, Sobchak got a high stick to the face.
Hewitt, sorry.
And then
it was
Sobchak after, and then Bobby went in. I sort of fully understand that in protecting your imports, especially, you know, you can't get away with that, and it should have been called.
I think at that point it was a 1-game ban, wasn't it? Because for the fight, the afters was, you know, the equipment and the coming back out of when they pushed him onto the box, and he then came out and had another fight, and it's like
it's all the stuff afterwards that, to be honest with you, didn't need to happen. It's had a massive impact now on him and sort of the rest of our season, but you know, you gotta take your medicine, move on, and look forward. So I think having him back for that last Telford game, he's going to be G'd up. He's going to want to go out with a bang now, I think, and just hope that we can get something up until that point. So that rounds up Seahawks reaction. Okay, so this is the part where we're going to look at the weekend's fixtures and the current standings. We started on Saturday on the 29th of March, where Hull Seahawks had the Peterborough Phantoms. We've just gone into that in the Seahawks review, so we won't labour that too much, but Seahawks come away with the points in regulation time with a 3-2 win at home. Swindon Wildcats had the Sheffield Steel Dogs. Very interesting result. I think, to be honest, I expected this to go a little bit further one side rather than as close as it was. What do you reckon to the result then?
I think I definitely agree with you there. The link, I thought that Swindon were going to get off to a real good start, but I think it's pretty much sums up playoff hockey, doesn't it? You know, Sheffield are there for a reason, and to be fair to them, it looks like they'll give Swindon a good old go. 4-2 in the end, in favour of the Swindon Wildcats.
Yeah, I was going to say, so for those of you who don't know, the result was 4-2 to Swindon. But yeah, to be honest with you, I know that we've talked about Sheffield's form over recent weeks, and certainly towards from the second half of the season, not being great. But yeah, ultimately Swindon getting the job done on the home ice, but certainly would have expected a few more goals there.
100%. And again, that's a testament to Sheffield. I feel like if this Sheffield had turned up, a team that can keep Swindon at a 2-goal deficit for maybe the last month or couple of months of the season, they may be in a little better of a situation than they are at the moment. But
yeah, and as I mentioned, didn't he, about how difficult Sheffield can be, and if they've got all of the players, they can be a team to watch. So, I mean, let's not write them off right now.
No, definitely not. No, they've proved just there, haven't they, how they can get results from teams. And I know last week you backed them against MK, and in your predictor. So you know, with results like that, then why not? Yeah.
So then we'll move on. The Telford Tigers had Leeds Knights, and it was in Telford. So this is quite a surprising result to me. Leeds did take the points here, but it was 4-3 in overtime. So Telford managed to get a point in that game, which is really big for them. You know, looking at the rest of the fixtures, maybe not so good for the likes of Hull and Peterborough, who would probably been expecting Leeds to go away and come away with all the points there. So
I think, with no disrespect to Telford, me, you and Azza all backed Leeds to beat Telford twice with no overtime points and those bits and bobs. And you know, Telford have done exactly, weirdly, what we have spoke about all season, and made it really difficult for teams in their rink. It's quite similar to the Bees, really, where you know they like playing on their home ice, and obviously that's shown, hasn't it?
Well, some of the fan interaction we've had, that people have said you don't write Telford off, especially in playoffs, because they are a playoff team.
Very true, yeah. 1 or 2 back to Telford, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to be bang up for this. They're going to be bang up for it this weekend against Peterborough. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that. We will be anyway, but it's going to be interesting. But yeah, very surprising result. Leeds ultimately coming away with the additional point. Then we had the Milton Keynes Lightning against the Romford Raiders. Again, this is a bit crazy. So this finished 8-7 with the overtime win going to Milton Keynes Lightning. There is an absolute goal fest here. 8-7 in a playoff game is pretty crazy, to be honest with you. So
first period, MK ran away with this, and they scored 5 goals. Now, if you're at Planet Ice in MK, you know, and you're one of those 2,000 fans or however many they've got in there, you know, that place would be bouncing, wouldn't it? Yeah. However, you score 5 in the first period, and it ends up 8-7.
Yeah.
You know, I actually heard Tim Wallace's interview after this game, and he was really upset about it. Actually, he at the end of they actually swapped the netties. So they pulled Jordan Headley because I don't know whether it was due to an injury, or I think by the way he worded it, it might have been because of the amount of goals that they'd conceded. Yeah. You know, and Will Carlin went in instead, the backup netty. Right. Now, you know, first playoff game, and how much have we sang about Jordan Headley this season, and then he gets pulled in the first playoff game. It's an interesting one, but Tim Wallace actually came out himself and said, you know, I gave him some home truths after the game, and I probably don't want to repeat what I said, but what I said's behind the scenes, and if we want to be doing this, you know, if we want to be going through and getting to Coventry, then that performance needs to be picked up massively. And
it's probably not wrong as well, to be honest with you. When we look at this Milton Keynes side all season, they've been, obviously they finished second, but they've been in a title race all the way through. They were first
for a big part of the season, weren't they?
You really would have expected that they take it to them here and show what they're about,
statement
and
of intent.
with another eye on the Coventry. You know, after I realise it can be a bit demoralising coming off the back of what they will consider a loss of the season, but you've still got something to play for. So yeah, quite a surprising result. Ultimately, they'll come away with a point, just gifting one to Romford, which I'm sure they didn't want to do.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, before we move on, I think we owe Romford a bit of an apology, because I think last week all three of us sort of wrote Romford off straight away, but they've shown right there, haven't they, what they're capable of, and they've put even though they were 5 down or however many, you know, they've given them a good go, and they've got a point out of that game. Like, how many teams in the league are actually going to go do that? And probably shows why they got to where they did in the cup.
This is it, and this is why we love playoff hockey. It's so hard to predict, but so interesting to see. You see these teams that you might write off weekend upon weekend come into these games knowing that a couple of games they can perform and it matters, and they can take away some points, which Romford did it on Saturday. But moving on, on the Sunday fixtures on the 30th of March, we had the Sheffield Steel Dogs again at the Swindon Wildcats. 4-3 to Swindon.
Yeah, so Swindon actually travelled up to Sheffield, didn't they? And it was again a really close game. I think Swindon will be really happy with this, because Steel Dogs do have individual talent like Walker Sommer and Bjorklund Nordstrom and Kirky and Phillips, and all these players who are really, really experienced and good players, and to come away with 4 points and no giving away, no goal, no points, like individual points there. I'd be a really happy man if I was Aaron Nell.
Ultimately they've come away with a 4-point weekend, which is massive for them in the standings. But Sheffield managed to get 2 goals on the Saturday and 3 goals on the Sunday. So again, they're creeping there. They're showing that they've got the quality to sort of get through games, and against other teams which you might consider a lesser team, they could be picking up results quite easily there. So
I definitely don't think that they can be counted out at this point. I'm reflecting on last week a lot, and how we was just like, they're not going to get any wins, and like we're already being proven wrong in a sense, aren't we? Like I did back Sheffield to only beat Romford once from the whole playoffs, and I might have to eat my words after this weekend, because them and the Raiders have both showed that they're looking to get points off the big ones, and fair play to them.
Yeah, but moving on then, we had Leeds Knights against the Telford Tigers, the second of their double header. Bit of a different game, to be honest with you. Leeds winning this one 9-2, so obviously we know the Castle's a hard place to go and get points. It was always going to be difficult, probably a few tired legs as well after the work they're putting on the Saturday.
Initially it was really difficult for Leeds, wasn't it? You actually said before the start of the recording, Telford went 1-0 up, didn't they? Short-handed goal, I believe.
I don't know if that was a Saturday or a Sunday, but let's have a look. Yeah, short-handed goal. Short-handed goal, yeah. In fact, both of Telford goals were short-handed, which is massive as well.
But then Leeds actually responded with a goal in the 7th minute, and then 8 seconds later another goal by the same man, Matthew Barron. So fair play to him. And then they actually rounded it up with a 3-1 first period, and then from there sort of went into cruise control, didn't they?
Yeah, really showing what they're about, aren't they now? Yeah. So I think that there was never, in my opinion, going to lose at home after the crowds that they'll have, and coming off the back of the league win, it was going to be very difficult to go to the Castle and take points.
The big man was waving his wand again, wasn't he, Biss? We talk about him all the time, don't we? But another 4 points on the night, a lot of assists. He's going to be massive for them in this period, isn't he? Yeah.
So I would say in that fixture, probably not an unsurprising result, but maybe the amount of goals that was scored for Leeds going off, the Saturday result. Moving on, we had the Romford Raiders, Milton Keynes Lightning, the second of their double header. Milton Keynes coming away with this with the 2 points in a 7-5 win. Not as emphatic as the Saturday fixture, not as maybe, I think it was just as intense, but there was still quite a few goals there. Yeah. So,
I mean, if you're an MK fan or a Raiders fan, you've had a great weekend of hockey, with the amount of goals that's been scored. But if you're Tim Wallace, although you're happy with the 4-point weekend, are you slightly concerned about how many they're conceding?
Yeah, probably. Probably. If you're conceding these amount of goals to Romford, again, not to diminish what Romford are doing there.
And
how many can you expect to concede against Leeds?
With Sean Miller and Schufelt and people like that, like they have some real firepower, don't they? But with MK, they had Martelli in the All-Star team, and they've got Spadafora, who's been playing real well recently. Kerlin's obviously been fantastic this season, but I personally am quite surprised at MK's amount of goals are conceded there.
I agree. Maybe they're focused too much on scoring goals, and they are defending, and you can get found out if you don't protect your own goal. But so ultimately Milton Keynes coming away with the points there again, and the final fixture on a Sunday was the Peterborough Phantoms at the Hull Seahawks, which we've talked about, and that Peterborough took that 1-6-2. So again, just to recap, that was an intense game, probably one that the Seahawks would rather forget, but Peterborough well deserving, in my opinion, for the results.
Really good value for the points, wasn't they? So fair play to Peterborough.
Yeah, so we'll move on then to the current standings of each group, starting with Group A, which is Leeds Knights, Peterborough Phantoms, Hull Seahawks and Telford Tigers. Leeds currently in first position with 2 games played and are on 4 points. Peterborough Phantoms just narrowly taking that second position. They've played 2 and have got 2 points with a home win away loss for both of those teams. They've just taken that second position on goal difference by the looks of things, and the Hull Seahawks in third. They've played 2 and got 2 points. Telford Tigers are in last, having picked up the 1 point against Leeds Knights. However, probably better than expected for maybe some Telford fans. I know they'll believe that they can go with
a free hit sort of thing.
Yeah, but still, they maybe didn't expect to get any points on the board this weekend.
Yeah, I agree.
And they have done so. Be very intrigued to see how this one's going to pan out.
Yeah, and let's remember they're only 1 point behind us.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
It's not they're not a million miles away. This group, this playoff, this Group A, is wide open. Wide open.
Absolutely. So then in Group B, we've got Milton Keynes Lightning, Swindon Wildcats, Romford Raiders and Sheffield Steel Dogs. Milton Keynes are in first position, having played 2 and are on 4 points. Swindon Wildcats narrowly behind them with 2 wins and 4 points. So again, just the goal difference edging Milton Keynes there. Romford Raiders are in third position with 2 games played and 1 point, and the Sheffield Steel Dogs played 2 and have 0 points, which is probably a little bit of an injustice, they'll feel, for the performance they put in at weekend.
Agreed.
But all in all, is this somewhat similar to how you would have expected to see it coming into the first weekend?
I think that it'll be buzzing with this. I think Group A and Group B after round 1 are exactly what Azza predicted.
Yeah.
He obviously had Seahawks in third and MK top in the group.
Mm-hmm.
He might have had Sheffield in third actually, above the Raiders. However, I think that is probably good value for all of our predictions really. I had Peterborough and Hull to both have 6 points at the end and sort of battle it out based on goal difference. So
these next few weeks are going to be massive. I really can't wait to see how these tables are going to look soon. So especially after this weekend, coming into sort of the heart of it all, where you need to be picking up points, it's going to get really interesting.
Yeah. It'll be really, really interesting to see Group A after Leeds and Hull this weekend.
Yeah. I was gonna say that all said, we've still got something to play for. We've versed a very hard side in Peterborough, but there's still points on the table there for the taking.
I think we need Telford to do us a favour this weekend, don't we?
Yeah, I think so. Telford need to do us a favour against Peterborough, and we need to go and take points.
We definitely need points against Leeds. I think that's a minimum. 2 points minimum we need from Leeds. If we don't get 2 points off Leeds this weekend and Telford do us a favour, we'll be, as you and Azza like to say, plumb last.
Yeah.
So that'll be not a situation or a position that we want to be in.
No, definitely not. Well, that rounds up this week's fixtures and standings. Welcome back. So this is the part where we're going to go into our team of the week, although a bit of a different spin on it now. Instead of doing team of the week, we're going to do player of the week.
Yeah.
Obviously coming into playoffs, we think it'd be better to try and highlight one individual that's put in a standout performance for the weekend. With that said, do you want to announce our first?
This is a high honour, this, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think before we do get into this, it'd be good for us to sort of mention a couple of individual performances that we spoke about off camera.
Yeah.
We've already mentioned, Dina. He made 40 plus saves on Saturday night.
Yeah.
He had a great weekend.
Hayden
Levine again was awesome, wasn't he? Home and away. Biss. Yeah. The list is going on and on. We're sort of checking away, those potential people who could be the player of the week, but
weirdly though, this person this week actually didn't score any goals.
Does he deserve to be the player of the week then?
I think so.
Go on, I'll let you lead. Announce our first one. It's a big honour, this.
So this guy got 8 points overall of the weekend, which is huge, and not one goal. This week's player of the week is Jordan Cowney for the Milton Keynes Lightning. He got 2 assists on Saturday and 6 assists on Sunday against the Romford Raiders.
He really got MK going this weekend. One little stat that I did like in terms of his assists this weekend is he scored the first. He didn't score. Sorry, he didn't score at all this weekend. With but he got on the assist. He got on the assist for the first goal of MK's. Sort of playoff streak sort of thing. I don't know what the playoff account will say.
Yeah.
He was part of that. Got him off to a good start, and then he also tied up the 2 points from in overtime, didn't he? With the assist for Sean Norris. So a fantastic sort of contribution on the Saturday, even though it was only 2 points. And aside from his 2 points, we know that he had a really good game. He was up and down the ice a lot. That first and second line for Milton Keynes will be and have been already so important to them, haven't they?
Yeah, I don't think Tim Wallace will be unhappy with that sort of performance, especially in games where there's so high scoring in there. And he's sort of pulling the strings for that. We've said previously that big players needs to deliver in big games, and that's exactly what he's done there. So an absolute phenomenal performance, and hats off. Well done, Jordan Cowney.
Yeah.
That rounds up the player of the week. Okay, welcome back. This is the part where we're going to our big talking point. We've got a good big talking point this weekend. We said this on our Instagram, this is going to be an easy week for us recording, and that it is. So before the playoffs started, we managed to interview this player. He's someone that's been quite close to us. We really like him. I've actually got his helmet. So huge player, an absolute honour to interview, and just an absolute stand-up guy. In my opinion.
Yeah, he was way on board as soon as we sort of approached him about it, wasn't he? There are those kinds of people who, you can just tell that they're great guys, and that's off ice and on the ice. He can do the absolute business, can't he? And we saw that firsthand for 2 years, and he was part of the reason why we enjoy hockey as much as we do now, and why we're here. So a big testament to him.
I'm hoping we weren't one of the reasons that spurred him on though for this weekend. So.
Oh, maybe so. Well, you'll have to find out, won't you? And do you want to do the honours?
Yeah. With that said, introducing Nathan Salem. So today we're joined by a player who has been lighting up the ice this season for the Peterborough Phantoms, and it's Nathan Salem. Nathan's been one of the standout players in the NIHL National Division with 51 points in 54 games. We'll dive into his journey with the Peterborough, his time in Hull, and much more. So Nathan, welcome to the show.
No problem, thanks for having us.
No worries, mate. No, we're buzzing to have you on. We mentioned just before this, you was one of the standout players this season, but also a player we've really had an affection towards as well since we started following hockey a couple of years ago now.
Yeah.
So he was obviously in your time in Hull. He was a standout player then. So, and I've actually got one at your helmet as well from the other season. Yeah, we started playing a bit of ball hockey, and Seahawks did a sale after you left. So
he was going to wear it, but I did say to him that I wasn't allowed. I said that's too weird, that. We're joking. So what we'll do, obviously, we'll start in terms of this season and your return to Peterborough, Nathan. So obviously you've had previous stints with the Phantoms, but coming back this year, how have you found, the new transition? Obviously it'll be a bit of a new look, Peterborough. How have you found your time since you've been back with the Phantoms?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit strange walking into the change room for the first time. And, when I was there a few years ago, a lot of the guys that were there a few years ago weren't there. So it was a little bit strange. But yeah, I found it good. I think that's what kind of Slava wanted to do. Obviously, they won Coventry last year and whatnot, but he still wanted to have quite a big change around in the team. But yeah, so far I found it really good.
And how does it feel in terms of that, coming back to your old team, but with like the new dynamic, new players and stuff like that after being away for a while? Is it something like, does it feel good to sort of go home, or, does it not feel like that? Did it feel like just a new team that you'd sort of joined?
I mean, yeah, it kind of just felt like a kind of a new team I joined, because there was quite a few of the guys in the team that I didn't know. I think there was only like Tom Norton, Brad Bauer, and a handful of others that I knew. So it literally felt like I kind of was walking into a new team, or new core players as such, because obviously I knew everyone at the organisation anyway from the previous time there. But yeah, we all get on and gel pretty quickly.
Good, yeah. So this season, obviously, Peterborough's shown some great form, especially towards the second half of this season, and you've secured the playoff spot now, and you secured that with plenty of time to spare. So what do you think's been the key to the team's success so far?
I just think, we've had ups and downs, obviously, throughout the year. We're started the year with, we're a four-line hockey team, and we started the year with kind of just over two lines for the first five games of the season, and then we lost more players, and, our road form was quite a bit of a struggle towards the start of the season. At the start of the season, I think we lost quite a few away games in a row. I think we won 10 home games in a row, but I think we lost 10 away. And I think it's when we started kind of getting guys back and obviously guys healthy that will help massively. And I just think we'll all stick and trust what Slava says and stuff like that. And, if it doesn't work, Slava's the first person to put his hands up and says it's on himself. But yeah, he puts all the plans in place for us. And obviously we're hoping to build on that this weekend and obviously going into the playoffs, hopefully.
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned about, some sort of bad form towards the start of the season. Is there a standout moment to you, or a standout game where you realised the team was starting to turn a corner and, start ramping up that pressure?
Yeah, I think probably when we beat Milton Keynes at home. I think that was October, November time, and we thought we have actually got a good team here. And then I think we beat Leeds as well not long after that, and then we beat Swindon at home, and that's kind of when we started to get things going a bit. I think that was around October, November time-ish, I think. Yeah. And that's when we kind of started getting some guys back from injuries that they got in pre-season as well.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, as Hull supporters, we obviously kept a close eye on Peterborough and what you guys are doing in this season, and we started ramping up. It started ramping up, didn't it, towards the back end, and we was thinking, oh God, they're actually chasing us.
We're gonna get hopped.
Yeah. So it was definitely a possibility, wasn't it? It was very close.
That is a testament to obviously you guys as well, though. There was never a moment like, I know, obviously there's always bias in terms of fan base and stuff, and we always like to push ourselves towards, fourth horses and all that kind of stuff that was said, but there was never a moment where you guys went around us, above us, because there was plenty of times where, we dropped down and things like that. So that's really testament to Peterborough. And again, like you say, with that slow start, it's massive in terms of how you guys have been.
And I think there was a time at Christmas, I think it was just after Christmas, had a double header away in Solway. And I think at the time we were maybe sixth place and Solway were eighth, but they were only like 5 points behind us. And we went to Solway with quite not a short bench, but I think Cam was banned. Cam missed the game on a Saturday, and we had a couple of other guys didn't make it. Scott Robson didn't make the trip, and yeah, we managed to obviously get a 4 point weekend then, and that's obviously like kind of looking at this half of the year, say from this side of Christmas, that's kind of probably another point where that's kind of pushed us again, because if we had lost them 2 games in Solway, we would have ended up by being in seventh, not going 8-9 points ahead of Solway. So that was probably another massive turning point, which we spoke about as a team the other week, to be fair, as well.
Yeah, and we've talked previously on the podcast about how difficult it seems to be to go away to Solway.
Yeah,
the journey being such a long one for most, so to come away with the points there is always a result, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but a lot of teams go to Solway and struggle. I think we went to Solway at the start of the season quite early on, like September, October, and I think we lost 7-2 in Solway there. And obviously, a lot of teams do go there and drop points. It's the same as going and playing against the Bees. There, I think 3 weeks in a row they beat us, and then they beat Milton Keynes, and then they beat Leeds.
Yeah, all at home, wasn't it?
All at home, there's no really easy games in this league now. Like, if you don't turn up, you're going to get beat, basically.
Yeah, we've actually spoke to, aside from the podcast and things like that. With this week, we've been speaking with the playoffs coming up to a couple of players in terms of from Bristol and Bees and stuff like that. And actually, it's quite funny that you mentioned the Bees, because Stuart Mogg from the Bees, he named you guys Peterborough as the team he thinks could go all the way and win it. And that's what we tend to ask, and I see a lot of similarities in terms of Peterborough and Bees in the respect that it should, like you say, it's just never an easy game. You know what you're going to get. It's always going to be a hard game. If you get something from you guys or the Bees, it's a bonus, really, isn't it? And obviously, again, you mentioned the Bees and how good they were at home. Obviously, there was a bit short benched, and they had circumstances like yourself in the first half of the season, didn't they? But like I say, it's funny that you mention the Bees, because their captain basically said that he reckons you guys are going to go all the way and win it.
Yeah, that's obviously a nice thing to hear. And we struggled with them a few times during the season. To be fair, I know the last game we played, that 12-7 game, was a bit of kind of a strange game to play in, to be fair. But that was just kind of like an end of the season game on it, where great for fans to watch, but kind of as a player and more so as a coach, you're probably thinking like, what is going on? Like, you just had no idea what was happening, like. But yeah.
This is just a little side question based on that, because we mentioned actually that this weekend, with all the high scoring and stuff, if you plonk that in the middle of the season, it'd have been one of the best weekends going, wouldn't it? Is that into the season sort of just like you want to get through it, no injuries, and sort of in the lead up to the playoff hockey, and try and get a little bit of momentum where you can?
Yeah, I think, like, obviously when your last few weekends of the season, when say we were fifth, Hull were fourth, obviously Leeds had won the league. I think that's what kind of teams are looking at, just kind of staying healthy, no injuries, and just kind of getting through the last 3-4 games of the year without obviously guys getting hurt. And some teams rest players and obviously play other goalies and whatnot to give the starting goalies a rest, because like our goalie Lavi, I think he's played basically nearly every game apart from 3 this year, I think. So it's obviously good for him to have a rest on Sunday. But yeah, it's just to kind of get guys, not hurt. And it would have been a bit nicer to not be 12-7 and kind of being a bit of a lower scoring game, but it kind of is what it is. I guess it's quite enjoying for the fans to watch them, I guess, for the last game of the season.
Definitely.
Yeah, so Nathan, you've been one of the most consistent performers this season for Peterborough. What do you think's helped elevate your game and to be able to continue to produce at such a high level?
I just think, like, obviously playing with kind of Duncan Spears and Austin as well. Like, I've played with Duncan when I played for the Steel Dogs, we played together on the same line for a full year there. And then when I came back to Peterborough a few years ago, I played with him kind of briefly in that. And it's just kind of, say, like having the guys around you that play a similar style of game, as you can say. And obviously playing for Slava as well. I've played for Slava before, so I knew coming into the season kind of what he was expecting from us as such. And when I signed for Peterborough, we had a kind of long discussion of obviously what he expected, and there was kind of no pressure on us going into the season, and just kind of be myself and play how I can play.
I was just going to say, did you find you had to make many adjustments for your game, or is it like, because as a hockey player, you're sort of like your own personal brand, aren't you? You know, what you put on the ice is what you can produce for a team. So when you go into a new team, do you ever have to have conversation? They're like, okay, we know you're good at X, Y, and Z, but we want you to try and focus more on like D, for example.
Yeah. No, not really. Well, not so much with Peter because Slava's had us before, so he knows how I play and stuff like that. And obviously, a lot of the guys, not a lot, but there was a few of the guys from Peterborough there this year, so they all knew how I played. It's maybe for kind of like imports and stuff like that, kind of getting to know how imports play, like how Cam plays, or how Luke plays and stuff like that. That's kind of more along them lines, I think. But yeah, I mean, I've played kind of like this for the past 16, 17 years, I think. So a lot of people know how I play.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to your time in Hull, mate, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
So obviously before returning to Peterborough, you spent the last 2 seasons in Hull, and you've previously played for Hull Pirates too. What did you make of your experience and your time at the Seahawks?
Yeah, I loved it. Obviously things didn't go to plan for me self last year. I didn't obviously have the best of season. But got nothing but respect for Matty and Joe. They've done so much for the club. You can see how much the club's improved from the first year, even from like 2 years ago. You wouldn't have think from the first year where we finished was it second last or whatever, to the year afterwards, finishing 4th, making a cup final, just losing out in the playoffs, which was quite unfortunate. But the kind of stuff that Joe, Matty, Callum put in off the ice to get the club where they are now, they've done an amazing job. And I was glad to be part of that for the past 2 years.
Yeah, so and how did you find obviously the fan base and the environment of the rink itself when you had to play there? Obviously, we've got some quite challenging but loud and proud fans, so I can imagine they can get behind you or they can wind you up quite easily.
Yeah, I can remember speaking to Colin when I signed back in Hull a few years ago, because he sits behind the away bench, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he used to say to us, "Oh, can you hear us shouting?" And I'm like, "No." It's like quite weird when you're playing hockey. Like you can't really hear things, if you know what I mean. It's like, yeah, like if you're taking a penalty shot, it's just literally like you can't hear nothing. Like it's quite strange. Yeah, you just kind of zone everything out, and that's what it's like. Obviously, you do hear stuff when you're coming on the ice and stuff like that, but I know it's nothing really. But like as a home or playing for Hull for the past 2 years, the fans were amazing. Like nearly every week they had 1,400 fans in, and obviously they're getting even more this year, which is great to see. And it's like even as an away team player, it's like such a good atmosphere to play in, and it's the kind of games that you want to play in.
I was going to say as well, in terms of the away atmosphere, I think Seahawks are sort of respectable to their ex-players, and we do like the kind of person. I feel like you'd never get a real bad reception. You don't feel that way, do you?
No, not at all. No, like they're the games I look forward to. Obviously, I'm looking forward to this weekend playing against Hull again. Obviously, we know how tough it's going to be. We match up quite well against Hull, and I think we've split the series this year. I think it was only the last game that was 4-1 that obviously Hull were a little bit more dominant than us. But yeah, it could go either way, really. The game could go either way.
it's going to be a good game. We've obviously talked about it, haven't we, on the lead up to it, and we sort of said, we fancy our chances more against Leeds than we do Peterborough.
Yeah, definitely.
So it is going to make some good hockey. We'll be in A block though, watching. So if you get in the penalty box, we might give you a shout.
Give us a word.
I think that was you. I think that was you shouting that as the other week. Was that you shouting that as the other week?
That was Azza.
That was Aaron.
Azza gets real excited and stuff. To be fair to you, you gave us a wave, didn't you?
I thought that was you. That's why, yeah. I'm all for stuff like that. Yeah, I'm all for stuff like that.
And that's like cult hero stuff. Everyone around us was buzzing around like this.
All out of loving it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So obviously going back to last season, then you said yourself there that you didn't have the best of season, but in our opinion, at the end of the season when it was announced that you would be going to Peterborough, there was a lot of people that we've heard that were really like gutting about that, and that just shows how much of an impact you had on the ice. Because obviously we looked at the stats and things like that before the start, and I think you got around 28, 30 points last season, didn't you?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that was sort of the impact that you had on the team. So how do you feel in terms of like the challenges last season? What do you think was or what do you think was the biggest challenge?
I just think I kind of struggled to get going a little bit from the start and whatnot, and then hockey's like a game of confidence, isn't it? Like if you don't. If you kind of say the year before when I was scoring quite a bit and getting points and stuff like that, and then when you go from getting that to kind of going 3, 4, 5, 6 games, I'm kind of like my own worst enemy sometimes. Like you kind of get in your own head and think like I'm actually good enough now, or stuff like that, or whatever. So I kind of got my own head a little bit, and and I had a help from obviously a few of the guys and stuff like that, but I just kind of tried to change my game a bit. If stuff's not happening, you try to do stuff in the other way, either finishing your hits or kind of playing that way.
Contributing in what way you can, and like you said, it going into your role with Peterborough, it seems to have flipped. You seems to be one of the most important players for the Phantoms. I know you had a question about this, didn't you?
What's
in terms of is the one about the his role with the boys and how important he's been.
Yeah, well, that's clearly it. I think looking at how you play for the Phantoms, the guys that we play with clearly know you're an important player, and you were the top point scorer of the regular season behind Luke, Cam, and Jean. But is the responsibility of contributing a lot something that's pushed you on for this season, or what do you win when you're on the ice with a team? Are you more of a trying to search for assists, just doing the gritty work in centre ice, or what is it that strives you on?
Yeah, I think obviously every time you play a game, and say you want to score or produce, I'm not a kind of guy who was like, oh, I need to score. As kind of long as you're on the ice and you're kind of producing in some way, that's helping the team. For me, whether that, either not getting scored against, just making sure you don't get scored against us that night in your line scores, whether you get an assist or not, just kind of doing what I can to kind of help the team push on in my line.
Yeah, because as a sad thing, obviously you've got some good offensive numbers, but you don't shy away from doing the dirty work either, do you?
No, yeah, that's kind of a running joke on our team. I do take some penalties sometimes that you probably shouldn't, but I mean that's kind of always been my game. That's what Matty said. Like he signed me for the player I was in Hull, and he obviously knows signing me when he signed us in Hull that I do obviously take some daft penalties sometimes, which are kind of say heat of the moments. But yeah, I do kind of try to play that way. I've always played that way since I was 15, 16, trying to get in the Warriors team, because if you didn't play like that, you would never have gotten the team kind of back then when I was 15, 16.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, because you've been highly relied upon for the points and the leadership this season, would you say there is a pressure on being able to perform consistently, and how do you balance like that in the team, especially for like the younger lads coming up and trying to focus on your own individual performance? You're going to have a lot of people looking up to you in that team, so I can imagine it's a bit of a responsibility to take.
Yeah, I think it is now, especially being kind of the second or third oldest guy in the team. There's a little bit more responsibility because obviously young lads look up at you. If you're not having a good game or things aren't going, say, the right way for yourself, they'll look at you to see how you react, and it kind of breeds through the team then. And I think that's what kind of the culture we have in Peterborough, like, say like no one reacts the wrong way and stuff like that on the bench, if things aren't going right for you. Slava knows you're not going to play well for 60 games of the year and stuff like that. It's just about how you kind of react to it and things.
I just want to add for the side note. Obviously, you mentioned about the younger players and things like that. You've got a hell of a bunch of talent, and like Louis for example. Like, what a player he came to Hull. The other week when you say you lost 4-1, but I think every time I've seen Louis this season, he's been fantastic, and from start to finish, in terms of the team. Sorry, from the back to the front, it seems like there's loads of talent in there. So, what's it like having like someone like Louis in there, for example?
Yeah, he's great. He's only 17.
Yeah.
17 is he? And I think like he only got a few points last year, and then I think he's about 15 or so this year.
Yeah.
Over the space of a year for a 16, 17-year-old kid, that's really good.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing as well. Like, Slava trusts them. Like, say the kids are only 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, they're going to make mistakes, they're going to turn over the puck and stuff like that. But it's just giving them a responsibility, and not, if they make a mistake, just sitting them on the bench, because then, that's no good for them and no good for the team.
Yeah.
And kind of having guys like that. I think it was the game at home against Milton Keynes, like, first two lines weren't playing great, and it was the third and fourth line that actually scored both the goals in that game. I think that's the game we lost in overtime, but yeah, that game then, third and fourth line won us, or took us to overtime in that game. And they've done it obviously more than one game this year. Obviously, I can't think of games on the top of my head, but over the past recent weeks, the past 2-3 weeks, they've been massive for us in this push.
In terms of, like, I just want to go through a couple more players because obviously I'm interested. You mentioned like Hayden as well. There was a lot of, before the start of the season, there was a lot of debate in terms of import netties and stuff like that. But he's been massive for you as well, hasn't he?
He's won us like so many big games. Like, just over the past couple of weeks, the game in Leeds.
Yeah.
The third period on the Saturday, like the first two periods, both teams are just rolling four lines, and then in the third period, Leeds came out to like actually like try and win the game, and they came out like a completely different team. And God knows how many shots Hayden had that game, but he stood in his head for us. And then a couple of weeks before, when we won the Milton Keynes 5-1, I think he had 50 odd shots then as well, and he was just literally like a brick wall that game for us as well. Yeah, and he's been massive for us across the season.
And both of those games, he only conceded one goal, and he's, like you say, when you guys have come to us and took points from us, it's really evident that he's such a big important player in the team. Like, just his stature alone, like when he comes off the ice and you're going for a coffee or something, he looks like he's about 9 foot tall, doesn't he?
He is massive, yeah. He makes me bar, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm only 5'10", but I feel like he's about 6'7" as well, yeah.
What about, so obviously again, you've got the influence of Luke and Cam. Cam's come in and set it on fire, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And Luke, really important for the Phantoms last year with the success that they had. How important are those guys?
Oh, massively, yeah. I think obviously when you've got guys that score 45, 50 goals for you in a season, guys that can't be replaced. And they've also scored obviously massive goals for us and kind of put the team on the back at times in games. Both of them. And then them with Yanni as well, they play so well together, and they kind of know where each other are, and Yeah, they've been massive for us this year.
Yanni at 42 years old as well. Like, no sign of slowing down. I think he's around 42, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, 42. Yeah.
You know, he shows no signs of slowing down. It's not very fair, is it?
It's not now. Yeah, there's no chance I'll be in the ring at 42. Put it that way.
They'll be doing 50-50 with Cole.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, he's such a professional, Yanni. Like stuff he does off the ice. Kind of a lot of the stuff that you don't see off the ice before games, after training, before training. He's probably one of the most kind of professional guys I've ever played before, seeing his kind of warm-up routines and stuff like that. So you can kind of see how and why he's played at this level for so long.
That's a real good influence to have on the younger lads, isn't it? You know, set them up at the start of their career. Yeah. Again, so moving past the lads, obviously, I feel like we could talk about them all night, and you know, there's loads of people. I mentioned Nort's for a big, like he's a big example, isn't he, of how great of a player he is.
Yeah.
And he'll be massive in terms of the playoff push, won't
he? Yeah, and on this playoff push, Nath, obviously it's been announced now who's, don't know in what group. So Peterborough, they've got Hull, Leeds, and Telford in your group. Yeah. What do you make of that, and you know, what's your assessment on how you see things panning out?
Tough. Yeah, you can't really say who's going to go through, to be fair, because you wouldn't put Telford as an 8th place team. Well, I personally wouldn't.
No.
The games that we've played against Telford this year, I don't even think we've won in Telford this year. I can't remember the scores at home. I think they've only came to us twice, but yeah, I think we've lost 2-3 times in Telford this year, and they've all been by 1-goal games, 2-goal games. Yeah, you literally can't really say who's going to go through, because obviously you guys have got a good head-to-head against Leeds. I think we're 3-3 against Leeds as well. And yeah, it's kind of one of them things where it's whoever turns up on the day.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's great as a fan to watch this stuff, to be honest. Yeah. But it's so nail biting. I can imagine as a player, it's probably a little bit easier, isn't it, knowing that you're in control, and you know the one on the ice doing it. For us, we're stressed watching it.
Yeah, I mean, kind of to a certain extent, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of them things where, you know, it's 6 games, so if you lose your first game, it's not the end of the world. It does put a little bit of pressure on you if you lose your first game, but you know, you kind of need to win. I think if you win 4 out of 6 games and you get 8 points, you're kind of guaranteed to go through, aren't you? But if you kind of go 3 for 3, then you're kind of relying on other results or other teams' results, where it's kind of something that you don't really want to do. So I think the first weekend is kind of one of the most important weekends of the playoffs, really, to kind of set yourself up for the remaining 4 games.
And you beat all, like this is a note that when we're obviously doing our little research before this, you've actually beat all 3 teams in the space of the last 5 or 6 weeks, haven't you? Is there, you know, obviously Hull and Leeds were really recent as well. Is there a certain team that, you know, you're looking forward to playing the most, or, you know, or obviously if you don't mind saying, what kind of challenges do you feel each team will pose to Peterborough?
Yeah, I think obviously the games against Hull are going to could be a flip of a coin, really, couldn't it? Like apart from the 4-1 game, as we just spoke about, I think all the other games have only been by 1 goal. I think it was the first game in Hull we lost 1-0, and then it was like 4-3, 5-4, and then the overtime loss that in Peterborough, or the overtime win for Hull. But they're always kind of good games they're playing. They're exciting to playing, and they're kind of tough physical games they're playing. And it's even like the same as Leeds and Telford. When you play against Leeds, Leeds play really physical in Leeds, and they're a fast team to play against. They've got, like, obviously, you know, Kieran Brown and whatnot, he can score for Heart. Yeah, he can create a chance out of nothing. And then obviously we all know what Telford are like. You know, what they finished 6th or 7th last year, made Coventry, and they made Coventry the year before. So they're definitely not kind of going to be a team that you can kind of overlook either.
Yeah, I mean, we was there at Coventry last year, and secretly, well, I want not so secretly actually. We was rooting for the Phantoms because you had like a fantastic run when it came to Coventry, and I think people had sort of had written them off at that point when you looked at the teams that was there, but. The likes of Luke Ferrara in those games was absolutely, he was crazy, wasn't he? He was scoring for fun really, and it just showed like the sort of heart that the teams got. But how much of a motivating factor is it for the team to get there this year?
Yeah, we spoke about that kind of this week on our training last night. Like, they want to go there starting from a Saturday. They've got a title to defend. And it's a great occasion to play. And obviously, you've been to Coventry yourself, and the atmosphere is great. And it's a great final weekend. And I've been lucky enough to play there, I think, 3, 4 times before, and never played in the final myself there. I know Hull Pirates won it the year before COVID won it. Yeah, before COVID or whatever they won it. But yeah, it's a great weekend to play in, and that's obviously what we've been spoken about, the occasion and stuff like that. But it's the kind of lead up to it as well. Like, you've say you can go a couple of goals down in the game, and it's not kind of getting your head down and being like, oh, we're 2 goals down, and obviously your body language, because that can lead on, and obviously that could be points drop. But yeah, it's a kind of a weekend that we want to try to get to, hopefully. But obviously it starts on Saturday in Hull.
Yeah, and I for one can't wait.
Me too. Just I know it's stupid to say, but try not to play too well against us. Don't break our hearts early doors there.
Try not to. No, I'm sure it'll be a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think is going to be, the key to success coming into these playoff matches for Peterborough as a team? Is there a focus at the moment in camp? Is it just to try and be consistent, defend your home ice, and try and sneak points away?
I know you mentioned the 8 points as well, didn't you? Like, is that the aim? Get to the 8 points and.
Yeah, I think so. Like, kind of every hockey player says this, and if you ask guys in Hull or kind of on any other team, you kind of look to win your 3 home games.
Yeah.
And then obviously sneak a win away, and that would be 8 points. But it doesn't always work like that at all. I can remember a few years ago when I was in Peterborough and we made Coventry. I think we only won 3 out of 6, but I think we lost 2 of our home games, and then won our away games. Yeah, so it's like anything can happen in playoffs. And I think it's kind of like it does get emotional. Like if you're a player playing in it and you go 1 goal down, 2 goal down, and I think it's just not kind of letting your head drop. Because as soon as you do that, your kind of game's over in it, and it's kind of not like the regular season. You only really get one chance, don't you? If you slip up once or you slip up twice, that could be your out.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, we're buzzing for it. By the sounds of it, obviously you guys, I think everyone we spoke to just can't wait. This is obviously what you play hockey for. This is what we watch hockey for. So obviously the season itself's getting to the exciting times now, at the exciting point now. To sort of like head towards the end now, Nath, what would you say to the fans, who've been supporting you through thick and thin? Like you said, there's been tough times this season and you are where you are now, which is fantastic. So do you have like a message for them or anything that you'd like to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a massive thank you. I know the fans in Peterborough have been great this year for us, through the thick and thin. When we've been losing games, winning games, we've always had an amazing turnout, and just thanks for the support, and fingers crossed we can get the Coventry for the Phantoms fans.
Yeah.
So I'm looking ahead, Nathan. What's next for you? You're just waiting for the season to finish now so you can have a break, or have you got any longer term goals or aspirations coming into the summer?
I think we need to congratulate you as well on next season, don't we?
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Signing for the Phantoms once again. What are the long term goals for you? Is it building another bit of a legacy at Peterborough, or?
I'm not too sure really. I mean, when Slava spoke to us quite early on, maybe a few months ago, about coming back, and obviously said he wanted us back next year and whatnot. And obviously, I was happy to come back to Peterborough for another year. And I think I'll be 34 nearly, and then season afterwards I'll be 35. So it's maybe kind of see how I'm feeling towards the end of next season, really, and obviously family life and stuff like that. And obviously I've got a young daughter and work commitments and stuff like that. But like at the moment, that's kind of it's all manageable at the moment. But obviously I'll just have to kind of make that decision next year when Slava wants to speak to us, or if he speaks to us. See how it goes. See how it all goes first, because it's hockey at the end of the day. Anything can happen, can't it? So yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for joining us today, mate. Best of luck in the playoff groups. We'll be keeping a close eye on you, obviously starting on Saturday when you're at our place. And we will be rooting for you secretly. So.
Individually.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
No, we can't wait to see how the rest of the season unfolds, mate. Yeah. So we really appreciate you doing this and buying in some of your time.
It's all right. No problem at all. Thanks for having us on.
No, we really appreciate it. So just before you go, Nath, obviously we've had a few people on. We've had Matty Davis and Tyler Blues, and we've been to the Hull Jets as well. And what we've asked everyone to do is, sort of say, my name is X, and you're watching the Slapshot Syndicate. Would you be able to do that for us as well?
Yep. My name's Nathan Salem, and you're watching the Slapshot Syndicate.
Hey,
that's class.
Legend. Thank you very much, mate. No problem. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah. Thanks for having us on again.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Nice one. Problem. Keep in touch, won't you?
I will do, of course, mate. Of course.
Nice one, mate.
Thank you.
See you in a bit.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, welcome back. We hope you enjoyed our big talking point this week. There'll be plenty more of that to come. But now we're going to move on to the upcoming fixtures for the weekend. And we start on Friday night, where Sheffield Steel Dogs have got the Romford Raiders.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, isn't it? So obviously as we go on, these are all going to be double headers. So on the Saturday night we've got Sheffield at home, and then on the Sunday night we've got Romford at home, haven't we? Yeah. Hopefully, for the Steel Dogs' sake, this might be the case of getting them a few more players in on the Friday night. We would like to see a true reflection of Steel Dogs at full capacity. Definitely the team that sort of got them to the position that they're in now. I know we did our predictions last week, but I think it'd be only fair for us to do a fresh round of results and what we think that are going to do what, considering what happened last weekend. What do you reckon for this first one?
Yeah, do you know what? I think this is going to be an interesting game, to be honest with you. I think both teams are going to find it difficult. We've seen Steel Dogs form and Romford's form just this last weekend, so they're going to be both looking to carry that over into this weekend, and these points are going to be massive for both of these sides. So I expect to see a lot of intensity, and ultimately, I think Sheffield will come away with the points in this one. Just having the home crowd, and noting that Romford are going to have to travel down on the Friday as well, which I think could make for an interesting fixture, especially if they've all been working during the day. But I think it'll be end-to-end stuff. I don't think it'll be Sheffield will take the points easily, but with that home crowd behind them, I do think they'll come away with the points. Yeah,
that's an interesting one. And again, I see your point, and I actually backed Sheffield to beat Raiders at home. There's something in the back of my head though that's saying I can't count the Raiders out now because of what they did against MK last week. The amount of goals they could put up. Like, when's the last time a team put that amount of goals up against MK? And I don't know whether that was on MK. Sort of not playing to their best, but you can't go against a team that's scoring that many goals. However, like you said, home advantage for Sheffield. They'll be fresh throughout the week. Romford have got a big old trip from down south up to Sheffield. It's a really hard one to call, this one.
And to be fair though, like you make a good point. I'm basing that off the fact that Sheffield are at home and both of the teams' performances this weekend. But if you look at the performances this weekend, Romford have taken it to one of the best.
Yeah, but
so
more to your point though, mate. More to your point, Swindon aren't an easy team to face. You've got them to go all the way, and me and Azza have also backed them to be at Coventry as well. So the fact that they kept Swindon down to as little as they did in terms of the goals, obviously they didn't get a point out of that, and they'll probably be disappointed. But I can totally see why, if they're at full strength, Sheffield, I can see why, you'd back them.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna go with you on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think although Raiders did score a lot, it's a tough old ask, especially on a Friday night. And I think that if the Steelers don't have a game, hopefully the Steel Dogs can get a few in. They're not very notorious for having a massive crowd, are they? But it's playoff hockey at the end of the day. And, hopefully they can get some players in. And I'll back Steel Dogs with you.
Cool. So then we'll move on to the Saturday fixtures.
Oh, God. I don't want to talk about it. This is nervy, isn't it?
So stressful.
So I haven't felt like this in ages.
We're starting with the Leeds Knights against the Hull Seahawks at the Castle.
At the Castle.
This is going to be a really big fixture. I mean, we've taken points from Leeds
at the Castle. How many times?
Oh, God, I wouldn't even be able to tell you. I know we've been there a few times.
Well, pre-season we won the prestigious Yorkshire Cup.
Yeah.
Where we beat them at the Castle, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think it's somewhere where we always fancy going.
We've talked about Seahawks and against the Leeds Knights, and us being, I wouldn't necessarily call us a bogey team for them, but we have the ability to take points from them, probably more so than any other team in the league, maybe barring Peterborough.
Yeah.
Honestly though, I don't really see us taking any points on Saturday. I think it might just be a little bit of too much of a tall order. Yeah. I'm going to go for Leeds Knights taking both points. I would love to see at least an overtime point in there, just for our own, keeping everything alive there.
Can you see it?
What overtime?
Head or heart overtime.
Heart's going overtime. Head's going no. Head's going Leeds. Leeds do the business and
like Peterborough did.
I don't think.
I think it'll be closer.
I think it'll be closer. I don't think Leeds will, wipe the ice with us,
nice.
as you might say. But I'm gonna go on my head on this one and say Leeds.
Yeah. Any other team in the league, not being disrespectful, and I'm not bigging us up whatsoever, any other team in the league, I'm straight going to the Castle and thinking, Leeds have got it in the bag, but it really depends on which Seahawks turn up. I'm not talking about individual Seahawks, the cats in the bus, but I mean, what version of the Seahawks team we're going to get. Because if we get the version that we saw on our home ice on Saturday night, then they could well and truly go and take some points from Leeds. But, again, Leeds travelled away to Telford and it made them tricky. And, they got that overtime. Telford got that overtime point last week, didn't they? Mm-hmm. What did they do when they went back to the Castle? 9-3. Even when Telford went up last week, they've got a switch, and they can just turn it on like that. So sadly, I think I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to go for the Leeds Knights. I really hope that they can take a point in overtime, the Seahawks, but
as Seahawks fans, we might redeem ourselves when we come into the Sunday fixtures.
Maybe.
But, okay, so moving on then, we've got the Telford Tigers against the Peterborough Phantoms in Telford. Weirdly, I'm going to go and say Telford take the points here.
Yeah. That is a big call, that one.
I honestly, my reasoning for this is just because they seem to have something cooking there at their home ground, and for what they did last weekend against Leeds at home. I can see him beating Peterborough.
Yeah, I actually backed Telford to beat Peterborough. I had us and Telford and Peterborough all taking 2 points off each other.
Yeah.
But Telford getting beat twice by Leeds, and that's gone to pot already.
Well, this is the thing. You can only go with the information you've got to date. So I know what we said in our predictors last week, but we've had a couple of games there now.
It's sort of thing, we've got to do that based on now. And right now, I would base my prediction, if I was putting money on it, I'd say Peterborough, you know.
Would you?
And that's not the team that I want to get the points. All respect due. I've said this about 18 times in this podcast. All respect due to the Peterborough fans. But for my Seahawks, you know, my own team, I really hope that Telford can do us a favour here, because Peterborough look good. And Peterborough look like if they get 4 points this weekend...
It's away though.
It is away. Yeah, you're right. I don't know though, Brad Larson, something's just telling me. Yeah. Peterborough and Telford, are they, you know, it's not ages away, is it? I know it's a couple of hours, isn't it? But
be a good game to watch, that one.
100%. Yeah, it would be a real good one to watch. Maybe we'll have to get the stream while we're in the stands. Yeah. I know we won't even be at the Leeds game. Reporter Ian's going for us though, so he'll be able to give us the updates.
Okay, so I'll go Telford, you're Peterborough.
Yeah.
The final fixture on Saturday is the Milton Keynes Lightning against the Swindon Wildcats.
Where do you start with this?
This is a real tough one to call. Real tough one.
Shall I go first?
Yeah, go on.
Swindon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I was leaning towards MK.
Well, last time Swindon went to MK, they beat MK at MK, I believe. It was only a small deficit, maybe like 3-1 or something. Don't quote me, but I remember Swindon beating them in the last couple of months at MK. I think if MK have an off night, you know, like Tim Wallace sort of paraphrased, he didn't say those exact words. Swindon aren't going to let you get five goals past. Like Swindon, they're not going to put 5 past Swindon in the first period. With people like Ryan Wells and Nags and Bluesy and all.
My view on this is both of these teams will know how important these 2 games are to protect your home ice.
Yeah, it's sort of similar to ours, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think Milton Keynes will take this one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to be a very interesting fixture to report back on. Moving on though, we've got the Sunday fixtures, and it's the second of the double header for Romford Raiders and the Sheffield Steel Dogs in Romford. I'm going to go Romford taking this one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I am going to agree with you, mate. Like I said earlier, I've got Romford and Sheffield to take 2 points off each other. Pretty confident with that. I think the Raiders, with a night off on the Saturday, all rested up. Sean Miller, get him on the physio table. Ready to go. But I don't think Walker Sommer and the rest of them are going to be
letting them do it easily.
Having the same idea now, mate. So I think again, this could be one of the games of the weekend. This one to watch definitely with 2 fresh teams, so to speak. And I think that'll be a real good game. That, but I see a high scoring Raiders win. High scoring, I mean, with both teams scoring.
Yeah. Okay, so then we've got the Hull Seahawks and the Leeds Knights in Hull. Now, I'm just going to put it out there now and say that I do think we'll get something from this game. And the home with our home crowd, there's probably not going to be a bigger game for them this season in the home stadium. So, arena, should I say?
Yeah, you know how like fans take the piss and they say, "Oh, this is your cup final," but I own it. This is our cup final. This is our cup. If we don't get anything from the Castle on Saturday, this is our cup final.
Yeah, if we don't get anything from the Castle on Saturday, I'd say we need to get both points.
I'd say we need to get 2 points here, and we need Leeds to do us a favour twice next weekend. Personally, that's what I'd say. But again, it's a head or heart question, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go on my heart on this one, just knowing what it can be like in that arena and the feeling.
You know what, though, actually? I say head or heart. In my head, though, we are a different team at home.
Yeah.
Aren't we? When we've got the atmosphere and we've got... you know what, and based off the other week, I know that they was playing, the third line quite a lot and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, and Walker, but he's a hell of a keeper as well.
Yeah.
I'm hoping Gozzy don't have an amazing game. We actually had a bit of banter with Gozzy, didn't we, on the Instagram there. We messaged him and said if we...
Don't say it because it becomes true, people will be pointing fingers.
Well, I'm going to say it anyway. We messaged Gozzy and said if we pay for him a holiday, would it be all right to miss this weekend? Didn't he? And he actually said that he was interested.
Yeah.
Until we asked him to take Harrison Walker with him, then he said he didn't want to do that. Probably like Big Brother, Little Brother doing that, innit? But no, in all seriousness, hopefully. For this weekend anyway, Gozzy don't have an absolute blinder, and we can take some points at home. But I think, trusting the Seahawks, we are a different team at home. When we've got the atmosphere going, we are a different team out there. So
I think we can do it.
And with Chambo in the dressing room, G and all the boys. I think I'm going to hope Seahawks maybe in overtime.
I know we need to get something, but if we get the overtime point as well, then I can see it happening. Okay, but we'll move on then to the Peterborough Phantoms against the Telford Tigers. Now I'm going to flip the script here and go for Peterborough.
I'm also going to say Peterborough. I think it'll be a comfortable victory for Peterborough at home. I think it'll be similar to what they did to us. I think they'll Wales. Hopefully, again, I've been, because of the playoffs, I've been chatting to loads of people all week. It's been fantastic. And Anthony Russell from Banners of the Wall said that this is going to be a proper gruffy game. That's not what he actually said. I won't say what he actually said because I don't think he'd appreciate us saying that. But yeah, I think hopefully it'll be a good game for their fans, but I don't think it'll be the prettiest game of hockey ever.
No, I see. My rationale on this is I see Telford sort of performing as similar to how they did this weekend. Obviously, they didn't take the points at home, but I feel like they can take them against Peterborough at home. So, but away, different story, and I don't see Peterborough coming out this weekend empty-handed.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Is that concerning to you as a Seahawks fan?
No, because if. Well, actually, probably a little bit more. I think I'd maybe unconsciously written Telford off when I was sort of thinking about the standings and how it was the predictions sort of say and how it was going to look. Whereas now, no, I think they could cause us some real problems. I just think if Peterborough take points and Telford take points in this game and we get something from this weekend, then it's ours to lose, really. So it's going to be interesting. Okay, so the final fixture of the weekend is the second of the double header for Swindon Wildcats and Milton Keynes Lightning, and at Swindon. So, I think Swindon will do this. I think they know how important, both of these teams know how important it is to defend your home ice in these bigger moments. I think Swindon will get the business done here.
Do you know what? I'm going to be real bold here, and I'm going to absolutely throw my predictor in the bin, and I'm going to go similarly to what you predicted, and I'm going to go that Swindon take 4 points this weekend, and they top their group at the end of this weekend, sort of thing. I can still see MK getting there. However, and obviously we've just said Jordan Cowney's our player of the weekend and all that jazz. No disrespect to MK fans at all, because they've been fantastic all season. But I can just see sort of tiny little cracks showing. Whereas Swindon, on the other hand, just looked tidy this weekend. I can see what you mean. Tough old game, a tough old double header. Against Sheffield, and they came out pretty nice. No extra periods, no extra this, that, the other. They just got the job done, and that's the sign of a good team for me. And at the link, they're a hard team to beat. So I'm going to go Swindon 4 points.
Well, we'll come back to this next week. So that rounds up this week's podcast. Just wanted to send a special mention to Nathan Salem. Really appreciated doing the interview with us. Good luck in the playoffs. All the fans out there who for your teams who are in the playoffs. We hope you're as excited about it as we are, and keep the interactions coming with the page. Give us a like, follow, comment on our videos or posts that we're putting out there, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I think more to your point just there, we still do have that giveaway going on as well. We've had plenty of people that have interacted with us, so if you have been involved with our giveaway, make sure that you are commenting on the post, tagging 3 friends, putting that into your story and following us on Instagram if that's the case. by the time we've got 500 followers, it might just be just before the start of the new season. You could have yourself a free jersey, so what's not to love in regards to that? Other than that, like I say, I just want to reiterate a big thanks to Nathan. He was an absolute legend, and also all the players that got involved with us this weekend. It was really good, and you know, I think everybody at home watching really enjoyed that, and I know we definitely enjoyed talking to those guys, didn't we? So that was awesome.
We appreciate the support, and this sort of interaction does spur us on to do more, so please do keep it coming, and we'll see you again in the next one.